Hello, this is Richard Amoroso, member of the Philadelphia Orchestra, and today we're going to talk about how to be a good section player. I've been in the orchestra for about 27 years now. I have a lot of experience, but I've also experienced different sections along the way, so I'm going to kind of just tap into all that experience. Before we get started, please hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much. So the first thing I will say, which is pretty obvious, is you need to be prepared, okay? If you have access to the music, get it. The orchestra now, it's so easy, I can just email the librarian and they will send me a PDF of the part so I can look ahead and see what we're playing. But just make sure that you know the music. If you don't know the music or are not familiar with it, I really suggest you go on YouTube, find a recording of it, listen to it, find the trouble spots. It's easy today. When I first got in the orchestra, I would do this, but I had to find CDs or borrow CDs and listen to the piece. Now it's so much easier, but make sure you have an idea of the piece and how it goes. It's so helpful. So if you don't have access to the music initially, get there early, look at the part, make sure the part is clean, okay? I very much think that it's important to have a very easy to read part. Sometimes there's markings from previous performances and there's a lot of unnecessary writing in the part. I don't like that. It's a lot of clutter. Really make sure the part looks clean. Even fingerings. Don't put too many fingerings in. It's hard to read those numbers. Our orchestra parts are very clean, and we usually take out fingerings if they are in there. We don't use many fingerings. I will put in a spare fingering here or there, but before I even do that, I kind of check it over with my stand partner to make sure it doesn't bother them, just to be considerate. One other thing that I suggest is that, and this is me in particular, I like the ups and downs, those markings, to be very much over the note. If they're a little bit misaligned, it throws me. One other thing you can add are slur markings in addition to the ups. If it's up, up with a dot, I will put a slur marking. It's easier to read and I'm quicker to sort of react to that. Okay, one other thing is where you sit. Of course, you don't want to hog the stand. That goes without saying. I'm sure you've sat with people that are a little too close to the stand and you don't see the music that well. Make sure that, again, check with your stand partner. Make sure you both can see. Make sure you can see the conductor. And if you can see the concertmaster, that's even better, okay? It's great to have a view of the concertmaster in the front stand. So now let's talk about one of the most important aspects of playing in a section, and that's how to blend, okay? I play in a section of 16, so there's a lot of people in my section, but we all have to sound as one. Sometimes sections will be 8 to 10 players, depending on the complement and what you're playing. But remember, you are trying to play a line that everyone else is. And there are certain aspects of this that really need to kind of be sort of treated very delicately, but also just really recognized more than anything. One thing I will talk about is just articulation. The better the orchestra, the more cleanly, the more sort of together we articulate with the same kind of stroke, okay? So be sure that you're looking around you, or especially looking at the front stand, and make sure you're using the same amount of bow, playing in the same part of the bow, and releasing the notes at the same time. So if you're playing a dotted note, you're all playing the same stroke. If it has a dash on it, make sure you're playing the dash and you're releasing exactly the same way. It's so important. One other thing is to avoid any unnecessary accents. If you do something at the end of the phrase and you sort of carelessly just and unconsciously throw an accent, it happens. And I've sat around people that do that, and it's very disconcerting, and it really sticks out. And it's something that is very sort of a taboo in a section, okay? So be aware of that. So one other thing is to really be aware of your surroundings. Really listen to the section. Try to match the sound of the section. Also listen to other sections and make sure that you are playing ensemble-wise with those sections, okay? Now, of course, there's intonation, and you have to match your section, but sometimes I also try to listen to the sort of democratically established intonation of the orchestra. And most of the time, it's easier with the Philadelphia Orchestra, I must say, because the orchestra plays at a very high level with a very consistent intonation. One thing I will say, it's easy to play with the Philadelphia Orchestra section. Why? Because everyone, for the most part, is doing the right thing and doing the same thing, okay? And if you do something different, you will stick out. So it's a little scary in that regard. And of course, we all will mess up and do something that's sort of not going with the flow. So in its typical section, you just want to be aware and just kind of listen to, again, what's going on around. So in our section, we sit with different people. And that's the nice thing about rotating. And I'm very sort of friendly with everybody in the orchestra. And what we will do lots of times is play through certain passages with one another. So if there's a very difficult passage, I might go through that passage with my stand partner and just play through it slowly and rapidly, depending on what's going on, just to match sort of stroke and intonation and sort of just feel the performance of that passage. It's a really nice thing to do. It's a nice way to kind of also be friendly with your section. One other thing too is when you're playing with a section and things sort of kind of go sort of in opposite directions, don't force the matter. Don't try to be a hammerhead and try to show everybody, oh, this is how it goes. That actually makes things worse. Try to sort of navigate those sort of, uncertain waters and just swim to safety, or try to just kind of be more defensive rather than aggressive, okay? It's a very simple thing, but I very much think it's important to take note of that. So here's another aspect of sitting in a section. Where you sit really dictates how you play. Sometimes if I'm sitting in the far back on the fifth stand, the far corner of the section, I have to say that's one of the more difficult places to sit. Why? Because I'm so detached from the rest of the section. I'm also detached from the bass section. I really sort of have to anticipate a little bit more, okay? I have to really keep my eyes a little bit more peeled, but also I can't overplay so as to lose sight of what's going on. If I hear myself too much, I might not hear the rest of the section. So there's this real difficult balance of how much I can sort of go for it and how much I have to just be sure that I'm playing with the section. When I'm sitting sort of more in the middle of the section, the second or third stand, it's a lot easier. Or even the sixth stand, which is near the seconds. That's a very nice place to play because I'm surrounded by the sound. It's just something else to take note of. Last thing I will say is make sure you play with lots of joy, lots of enthusiasm. I'm so grateful to play in the Philadelphia Orchestra section because everybody plays with that sort of energy and it's kind of contagious and it's such a fun ride, to be honest with you. It's like being on one of the best rides at an amusement park. Thanks for watching. If you have anything you want to add to the conversation or any other tips, I'd love to hear from you. Just throw it in the comments section. So it's about time I have to go. I have to get in my car and drive to the concert. All right, we'll see you all soon.